Now I want to talk about equipment handling, the factors you've got to consider when handling equipment. Now it's critically important to read and understand the operator's manual before operating any equipment. What are the basic rules to remember? I'm going to go through now the basic rules to remember. First of all, when operating a tool, never place yourself between the tool and the vehicle. You don't do that. Secondly, because hoses are susceptible to damage, which is cuts, abrasion, you've got kinks, burns, chemical contamination, etc., extreme care must be used. Now, damaged hoses should never be used and should be immediately removed from service. So if you spot any damaged hoses, you must remove them. Don't do this. Yeah, that's wrong. There, you can see there, cuts, and there. That kink there will damage that hose. Remove that kink. Equipment handlers, do not use the hoses to carry, pull or move the tools or pumps. You've got handles with them, use the handles. Do not pick them up like that, can you see? Do not pick them up by the hoses. That's wrong, don't do that. Next one, never stand on the hydraulic hose. Hydraulic hoses are designed to be resistant to everyday wear and tear. If they're stood on, they're obviously going to be more susceptible to damage. They're not designed for a 17-stone fireman to start chomping up and down on them. Yeah, so don't stand on them. Now, the other advantage to training rescuers to avoid never standing on the hoses means that they are more aware of the hoses on the rescue scene and thus less likely to trip up over them. So yeah, not only don't stand on them, don't trip up over them either, like that. Don't stand on them. So don't do that. Next, components of the vehicle that may be ejected due to cutting or spreading must be controlled. So as you can see here, holding the door, anything that's going to fall or be damaged, try and control it. Next one, tools not actively being used should be returned to the tool staging area and left in the same position. As you can see, when you stop using something, put it back. Don't have all the equipment scattered everywhere. You sometimes go to a scene and all the equipment's everywhere. Once you've finished with a piece of equipment, put it back at the safe area, as you can see. The next one, tools should only be carried and operated using the designated handles. As you can see there, it's got a handle. It's designed for that. That's how you should handle it. Never place your hands on the arm or blades of any rescue tool. So never put your hands on the arms or blades of a rescue tool in case you cut yourself. Never do that. Let's look at the various rescue equipment now available to the rescuer. I'm going to go through some equipment now and just give you an overview of it. First of all, let's look at some spreaders. Now, the spreader is a powerful tool, and when used effectively, it can be very efficient in the extrication process. Now, spreaders represent a significant crush hazard when used carelessly. So they can cause real damage. They've got a crush hazard, crush your fingers or whatever, if used carelessly. Now, the following points should be noted when using the spreader. Now, the main aspect to consider is correct placement on a stable spreading platform. So make sure it's stable before you start spreading. Now, once the tool begins to spread, it supports most of its own weight, so that from this point, it's only necessary now to support the tool and operate the control handle. So once it starts on force, it'll actually do it itself. And these are the spreaders here, as you can see, and there's some more spreaders. Now, the use of cutting tips can be shown here in opening up a door panel. Can you see there? You can use that to open up a door panel. This here shows you an example of using the tips to create space. As you can see, it's going to crush in there, it's going to crush, create space to give access to the bonnet. Now, later on in the presentation, I'm going to expand on the application of spreaders, and we're going to show you some video of it actually in operation. Now I want to discuss a few points that you should remember when using spreaders. First of all, you should try to remember to use the full surface of the spreading tips, as you can see here. Full surface of the spreading tips, not just part of it. Should the tips lose their grip, stop and reposition them. Use the full grip of the spreaders. Ensure that the tool position is such that the material is pushed to the outside of the vehicle. As you can see there, it pushes the material to the outside of the vehicle. Now, you cannot prevent the natural movement of a tool during operation. You can't prevent the natural movement, so be careful of that. Ensure that you stop and reposition before the tool or parts of your body become trapped against components of the vehicle. So stopping and repositioning before you carry on with the tool use. Never place your hands on the arms or tips of a spreader, ever. Just in case someone turns it on, just as your hands are inside there, crushes your hands, because that force won't take long to crush your hands. So never place your hands on the arms or tips of a spreader, as you can see there. And after working with the spreader, it's very important to put it back. Put it in a safe position as well. Put it in a safe position. Is safe open or shut? Shut. When it's finished, shut. Not open, shut it, as you can see there. That covers the basic principles in the use of spreaders. Like I say, I'm going to expand on it later on with some video footage. Now in this module, I just want to give a discuss quickly on cutters. Cutters, as you can see here, these are the cutters. Now cutters are more important on the rescue scene than ever before. And this is due in part to advances in vehicle design and construction and improvements in cutter technology. Now the enormous power available of these tools allows for a significant cutting or crushing hazard when used carelessly. So be careful with cutters. Let's go through some important points to remember when using cutters. Now, first of all, you've got to make sure you use the cutters at a 90-degree angle, as you can see here. Don't cut at an angle as it may damage the blades. 90-degree cut, as you can see there. Next, always make sure you have a good view of the area that you're cutting. So make sure you actually see where you cut. Don't go down the corner and start cutting something you're not sure you cut over. Make sure you've got a good view, as you can see there. Ensure that the material to be cut is positioned as far into the blade recess as possible. Avoid cutting at the tip. More force at the bottom. Try to get the blades fully in. Avoid cutting through any hidden airbag inflators or other potential hazards. In other words, make sure you know where you're cutting. If a cutter begins to twist excessively, or you notice that the blades are actually separating, stop immediately and reposition the cutter. So don't, when you see it and the blades are coming apart, don't just think, oh, it's going to go, it's going to go. Stop immediately, reposition, start cutting again. Never place your hands on the blades of any cutter. Do I have to tell you why? Do you like your fingers? Don't forget, you cannot prevent the natural movement of a tool during operation. So it's very hard to prevent the natural movement. Okay, you've got to be careful. But you've got to ensure that you stop and reposition before the tool or parts of your body become trapped against components of the vehicle. So they're the points to remember with cutters. That's the main point. Now I want to discuss the basic principles of the application of rams. These rams here. Now rams are an essential part of the hydraulic tool set. It may not always be necessary to make use of these in every case, as with a cutter and a spreader, which you'll normally use cutters and spreaders, but not always the ram. But they are invaluable in situations where the front of the vehicle is causing entrapment of the occupants. So this is now to gain access to the occupants. Now, due to the loads that rams can push and hold, sudden kicking out due to loss of grip is the primary hazard. If that ram is under a lot of pressure and it slips, kicks out, yeah? You've got to be careful with them. Now you can use them for things like steering column lifts in heavy goods vehicles, as you can see here. And they can also be used to create space in tight areas. As you can see here, it's creating space. Now, I want to discuss some important points that you must remember when using rams. First of all, always position the ram in such a way that the control handle is easily accessible but will not get in the way later on the extrication. So make sure you can get access to it and it's not going to become a hazard to get to it later on, as you can see here. If at any time the lifting or pushing operation is stopped, you should pay attention to the orientation of the control handle when you begin again. Do not accidentally begin to lower it or release pressure on the ram. Make sure you know which way is up and which way is down. Attention should always be given to both purchase points. So where you're putting it, look at both purchase points and make sure it's got a good purchase. If necessary, use a ram support to ensure a good, secure ramming platform. As you can see here, you can get ram support. So if you can't get a good grip where it is, you can use a ram support, as you can see here, that gives you a good purchase. Also remember, with rams, provide stabilisation below the purchase point before applying pressure. Okay, so make sure it's stabilised before you start applying pressure. As you can see here, there. That covers this module. So